Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to your live Investment Dominator Q&A call. And as usual, I'm Warren Davis, and we are glad to be here with you on this bright and sunny, at least it's bright and sunny out here in Peoria, Arizona, Thursday, April 9th, 2020. And so glad that there are those of you that have joined us on the call thus far. I'm sure there'll be more coming on board. We have a few of you on right now with us, and we want to go on and get started with getting your questions answered. Hopefully, some of the folks that are on with us are brand new, and we always welcome that. We do have another 2-day Investment Dominator Maximizer Workshop coming up here starting on Monday, 8 a.m. And looking forward to being in there with so many of you that are brand new. I've had lots of calls with those that for the onboard calls, and we welcome you to our live webinar. I want you to be able to get your questions answered. So before we get started, hopefully those of you can see me and see my screen where I have send me your questions. Okay, excellent. Yes, Jim, definitely looking forward to that as well, that 2-day workshop. It's amazing, no matter how many times I go through the workshops, either the live events or the workshops, it's amazing how you pick up something that you didn't hear before. And so I'm excited to be a chance to go and be the moderator and go through that again with you. Send me your questions right here. If you're brand new and you've never done this before, just go ahead and type in your questions in your control box there and hit send. Now, keep in mind that I will not be able to see the little hand signal there. So I want you to just at least send me your questions, and I'll see your name pop up there, and I'll be able to, I can see it pop up, and I will be happy to do my best to get your questions answered. We're gonna, as usual, those of you that are brand new, we always start with previous questions that we might have, we didn't get a chance to cover on the last class, so that we make sure we get, those. And I do have a backlog of questions because you guys have been so good about sending in the questions. So one of the first questions that I think I'm gonna go on and get off of our plate is with the 2-day Maximizer Workshop. It's surprising, folks have signed up for that and they're gonna be coming, but they don't really know how it's going to be structured or what we're actually going to be covering. So that's the first question I'm going to answer, which is a kind of a general question. What are we going to be covering in the 2-day Maximizer Workshop? You can see my screen here. It says the LPG deal flow. And just want you to know that, thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate you guys so much. In the 2-day Maximizer Workshop, we're basically going to be taking your entire LPG deal flow. We're going to show you how to select the market. We're going to show you how to get a contact list. And not only that, but how to filter that list so that you can import it into Investment Dominator. We're going to show you how you're going to mail your letters. You can mail your letters or at least produce the files that will mail your letters right out of Investment Dominator that goes to your various mail merge facilities to get your letters out. We're going to also show you, once people call back and say, hey, I think I'm interested in selling you my property, how you do preliminary research to determine what kind of offer you're going to give those individuals. Then we're going to show you how to mail your offers out, or if you have offers or option agreements. And finally, after you mail your offers out, we're actually going to mail an offer out of the actual 2-day workshop. It's a blind offer, but it's still an offer nonetheless, and it's a real offer. And so many folks have gotten deals. I'll never forget our very first workshop, because we mailed out the offers that our blind offer, and we mailed out those other, we had so many leads. We mailed all those leads the next week. We got a deal in California. We were out in California area at the time. When we got this deal, but we bought 13 acres for $2,000 in Southern California. 13 acres, and that came straight out of our Investment Dominator Maximizer Workshop. 13 acres for $2,000. And to this day, we're holding on to that property because I'm praying that there's a railroad or something going to go right through our property, want to come right through our property, and they've got to buy our 13 acres. And then I'm going to be sitting on the beach in Tahiti somewhere. But I'll still be running the Maximize. I'll still be running the webinars though, from a beach in Tahiti. All right. Then we're going to teach you how to open escrow and do your detailed research. When folks say, I accept your offer, we're going to show you how to research that property, get a market value, and definitely show you how to market the property so that it doesn't look like the traditional ads that you see out, you know, on Zillow or Facebook without that do not have our AIDA method involved. So then we're going to teach you how to sell the property and close and get paid. So this is going to be, as usual, it's going to be a very, very good time and going to help you a lot here. So here we are to get your questions answered. I'm going to start with let's see here, get my Investment Dominator screen up here. At least this is, well, we're looking at the LPG screen right now, but I'm going to look at my Investment Dominator screen here and get one very basic question that has been being asked quite a few times, and it's a question that comes out of a support complaint, actually. You know, when people are creating a support ticket, the issue is they say, I've heard so many folks say, well, I sent in a ticket, with my question, because I tell you that there's two ways you can ask your questions. You can always send in a support ticket. And if I come up under help here and we go into creating a support ticket, this is one way that you can actually ask a question. You know, you can put your question in here and please provide as much detail as you possibly can. And folks are putting in their tickets and they're, putting them in their platform and they create the ticket. But then I hear them say, after creating the ticket, I don't get an answer back. I'm not getting an answer back from the technical folks. So let me just write this down here. After creating a support ticket, how do you ensure that you will always get your answer? Where do you look? Okay, that you always get an answer. Now, and I don't think we've ever really covered this. I know I've never covered this even in this particular class, but right here, okay, so once you enter your question, you create your ticket, you'll get a ticket number. So a lot of folks, they just go back and they wait for that to show up in their email, which is a logical place to look for it. However, what's overlooked is you have this ticket history right here. This is where you can always depend on getting your answers to your questions. No matter what the question may be, you can type in your question and someone is going to get back with you here. So just want you to know that the ticket, the response to your ticket, it should go back to your email, but sometimes the email ends up in spam. And if you don't look for it in your spam folder, you may not see it. But this is definitely, they always put in the question that you ask and they'll put in your answer, your reply. And so even at this point, if it's still open, or if you have a question about it, you can always reply here and talk right back to the technical people through this ticket history place. And I don't think many of you aren't using that because I've heard this over and over and over again. So once you put in your ticket, create it, give them 24 hours obviously to answer your question, but then come in here and look in your ticket history and you should be able to find that. Okay, I'm hoping that will help some of you realize that we're here to get we're here to definitely get your answers, your questions answered, okay? So I see we got questions coming in. I'm going to get to those as quickly as I can, and I'm taking note of them all. So the beautiful thing about this system that we have here, it goes right, all of your questions go right into an Excel spreadsheet that I can print out at the end of this webinar, and I can, that's how I figure all the questions that we didn't answer from that particular webinar. So if I don't get it answered on the time, because we do have a backlog, like I say, but we'll get them answered as soon as we can. So Jim had a question from Monday, actually. Let me see, make sure, okay. So Jim's question from Monday has to do with a CSS coder. Jim was asking, he said, should a CSS coder be able to make, format changes to our websites relatively easily? Now, I'm not a CSS coder, but that question depends on a couple of different factors. Okay, so what Jim is speaking about is, we have our websites here, buying and selling site, we have our opt-in page, but let's say we go to our buying site, a CSS coder, if I'm going to show you, kind of give you an idea of what they would do, CSS standing for Cascading Style Sheets Coder. So they're the ones that come in and would make changes to any of this based on your recommendation. So if I come in here and I do an inspect, just to give you an idea, this is the kind of code that a CSS coder is going to get into. Definitely not my thing, and I don't do any website coding, but a CSS coder understands this. So your question is, how easy can a CSS coder come in and make changes? Well, it depends on, number one, the complexity of the change that you're asking them to make. Obviously, whatever design change you want made on your particular site so that it looks different than everyone else's site, that's going to play into how easy or difficult those changes are. The other thing, now you can find CSS coders up, out on Upwork, or you can find them on Fiverr. Those are the kind of places you look for CSS coders. But obviously, if you want some very detailed changes here, it may not be so easy for them to make those changes, but it also depends on the CSS coder's skill level or expertise level. In other words, you're going to get what you pay for. So, if you want to pay less for a CSS coder, if your budget is only so much, you may only get a CSS coder with a certain maybe intermediate skill level. If you want to pay for an expert, it could cost you a little bit more. I have never employed one, so I can't give you any dollar figures, but I do know they're relatively reasonable, and based on whatever changes you want to make here, if they're outside of the scope of what we allow you to make, if you went into your website settings buying, there are certain changes we allow you to do. You can put another theme up if you like, but if you still don't like that and you want to put up your own custom theme, you would have to get a CSS coder to do that. And of course, that, how easy they'll be able to do that, you'll have to kind of talk with them and see what their expertise level is. And you have to make sure you clearly communicate your requirements, what you're looking for them to do, okay? So hopefully, Jim, that will give you some insight, and then you asked right after that was asked the question, well, if you have a CSS coder that can make changes on our website, should you just give them limited access? And I would say yes. CSS coder should have rather limited access. But you'll have to discuss with them, you know, again, if they're going to actually log in, you've got to set them up as a user. They're going to add it, you know, add their name in here. Obviously, they're going to be a rep. They will not be an admin. And you know, give them their user login credentials. And then you'll have to go through these questions here with them to see, you know, how much of these functions are they going to really have to do in order to make your changes. But that's going to be a discussion that you have with the actual CSS coder as you're setting them up. Can't really say I know, but you do want to give them as much limited access. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, you definitely don't want to make them an admin. You don't want to make anybody an admin unless, you know, they're your wife or your partner, your business partner. You don't want to make anyone an admin in the Investment Dominator, because they can do everything that you'll be able to do, as well as add users or change, you know, what we call change the functions that they're able to perform, and you don't want to give anyone that kind of power. Okay, so hopefully that will give you some insight into that question there, Jim. So had a very interesting question regarding a problem that we see, you know, quite a bit with the Investment Dominator. And it's not really a problem, it's just a way folks enter or they import records into the Investment Dominator. So Seth's question has to do with the fact that he imported, you know, he says I have about 2,000 records from different counties. Okay, from various counties in his Investment Dominator. So they're all under, I guess they're all under prospect status that he's imported. And he said, you know, basically, how can I just select certain counties? You know, like here I have Harnett County and I've got Davis County and various counties. How to select? He wants to select and basically print out his records or process his records for, you know, let's say one particular county. Recs for one county. So that's the question. So if you have, you know, if I have 2,000 records or so in my Investment Dominator, how do I select just a particular county and have that processed, have just those records processed? So I'm gonna attempt this one. So I can give you, I want to demonstrate it, but I want to give you a clear picture of what you're going to do here. Okay, so you have Harnett, we have Davis County, we have Duval County, it's even Gill County here. But so far as prospects, it looks like all we have is Duval, Harnett, and Davis. So I'm going to pretend that I've got, you know, 2,000 records, maybe 5 of them are Harnett, another 500 may be Davis, etc. So all I want to do is I want to process, let's say, Harnett. So these are the ones I want to send out to letterprinting.net or REI printing. But I don't want to send out yet. I don't want to send out Davis, and I don't want to send out Duval. Right? I don't want to send these out. So I'm going to start. I wish there was a way I could do one advanced search, which there might be, but I have to play around with it. I'm going to do an advanced search here, and I'm going to say I want to select the records where the status is prospect, and I want to select. I'll start with the county is equal to, let's say, Duval. So that's going to be my first search. Now I wish I could figure out how to do like a multiple level search, and there might be, but I gotta figure it out. But anyway, I'm going to start with Duval. So I'm going to find all the prospects with Duval. I'm going to execute my search. That's going to bring me back these 2 records. So there's only 2 records. So I'm just going to say select all, right, based on my last search. And I'm going to change my status here from prospect. Just want to put them on hold. So there's 2 records. I'm putting those on hold, right? So now they're out of my prospect area. Then I'm going to do another advanced search, and I'm going to say, again, status. Now this is just the way I can think to do this off the top of my head right now. Status equals prospect. I'm going to add a rule, and I'm going to say the county is equal to Davis. Right? So I'm going to search for those, and I'm going to now, so this gives me all my prospect records that are Davis. I'm going to do the same thing, select all. I'm going to change the status, and I'm going to put those on hold. So 7 records, so they're on hold. Okay, so now if I look at my prospects that I have left, you see, all of my prospects I have left are all Harnett, which is what I want. These are the only ones I want to send out right now. So my next step is going to be coming here into the campaigns area. This is how you would produce these out. And when I'm at the prospect level, remember, anything with prospect is going to end up in this CSV file, right? So I'm going to now, I'm going to I'm going to send out my Harnett records. I'm going to save this file somewhere. And now I've got just the records from the county that I want to send out. So let's pretend now I go through and I send these records out. And so they're gone. So of course, I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to do my bulk update of all of my prospect records, and there's 7 of them, and I move to mail letter 1 status. So now those have been processed. Okay. So before I'm done, I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to go back to that advanced search again, and I want to find the county, or the status rather. The status is on hold, and where county is equal to Duval, right? Because that's what I move those on hold, and so there was quite a few on hold. Okay. But obviously there was only 2 that I want to move back to the prospect status. So now that's a good lesson right there. You want to make sure before you move them on hold, you want to see if there's anything else on hold. So obviously I put something else here on hold. So there's 2 I want to move back. So I'm just going to change my status there for these and move them back to prospect. Okay, so they show back up in my prospects. And go back and do that advanced search again. Status equal to on hold. And I'm going to add my rule. And the county is equal to Davis. I mean, I think you're getting my point here. Do that search. All right. And these records, I want to now move back I want to select all. Yeah, maybe I don't want to select all here. Let me see. I want all these go back on prospect. I must have had quite a few on hold there. So I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take a page of them. But if you've done this the right way, unlike the way I did it, if you would have checked to see what was on hold first and you would have moved those out of your way, move them to some other status, you would be fine. So check these on hold, change the status now back to prospect, 10 records moved, and now you've got your prospect records back in place that you previously changed. So yes, Blake said he's got it now. Prospect is the answer. So okay, hope that gives you an idea. But the important thing is that the only records you wanted to process were these records here that are in the county Harnett, and that's how you would have to select that one county. Now, this is a good lesson here, because this is why what we explained to you. Let's see, I don't want to save that. We explained to you that when you import records into Investment Dominator, when you use your import and you bring them in, this is why you only want to bring in the records for that week that you want to that you want to process. A lot of folks, they might have, I've seen them have as much as 18 or 20,000 records that they brought in all at one time. Maybe an entire, something they got from the county. They brought in all these records and they have to manage them week to week. All right, and that's what really can, that is what can really hurt a person, or make it more difficult for you to have to process these records in Investment Dominator. We have to select 500 at a time, or out of 20 or 30,000 records, and you have to do that every week. That's why I only import a file that has exactly the same number, because it's going to import them as prospects. And then I go up here to campaigns, and I know now I'm just going to pull out all of my prospect records at one time. And then I'm going to update my status. So next week, I bring in the next 500 that I'm going to process. I don't have to worry about, putting some on hold and going back and forth. But that's just one resolution there for, hopefully for you, Seth, if you've, got that situation with your records. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So along with that question, and I'm going to just catch this question here that Paul has, which is a good question. Can he assume? The question is, is it correct to make the assumption that you create one or two additional Investment Dominator statuses to track which prospects that you are preparing to mail or have mailed a second offer? Yes, that is a correct assumption. So that you create you may create one or two additional statuses to track. So I have to make sure I get these down each week. To track which prospects. Yep. That's exactly it. That you prepared to mail to. Yes, as a matter of fact, if you go up and you look at, in my, let's see, I'll get one here in my change status. You'll see I have a lot of different statuses here. These were not all built in. Some of these, like second offer sent. There's also an offers to be sent. This came from a group of people that wanted to, you know, they thought they needed to have a special status for offers to be sent, but you really don't. The way Investment Dominator works is if you don't have an offer amount in, even though you might have calculated the market value, but you haven't actually calculated an offer, even though it might be in, let's see, offer request. So anyway, you might have it in pending preliminary research status, but Investment Dominator will not produce an offer if there's not an offer amount and a market value amount, and it's in pending preliminary research status. So they thought they needed a special status. They thought they needed a special status that says, you know, offers to be sent, which means, you know, I haven't sent these offers yet, but I'm about to send these offers, and the ones that they had already created an offer for and they had a market value for, they wanted to come out. But they didn't know, they don't need a special status for that. All you do is leave 0 in the offer amount. As long as there's a 0 in offer amount, Investment Dominator will pick all the other ones in pending preliminary research that have an offer amount and that have a market value and that are in pending preliminary research, and those are the only offers that will get created. So Investment Dominator already knows if you haven't put in an offer amount, you don't want to send that offer out. So that's that is even shows you more how intuitive Investment Dominator is. Just a really, really, really great tool. Okay. I'm always singing Alex's praises because he's just smart. But you know, quite honestly, we got a lot of the functionality from you good people who have been so generous with putting in suggesting a feature. So if you want Investment Dominator to do something, come up under suggest a feature and tell us why this feature is important to you. All right. And we will put that right in front of our technical team. We'll put the design together, and next thing you know, it'll be implemented. So if you're wondering, you know, how do I make suggestions for Investment Dominator functionality? This is how you do it. Just put that in there, and I'm telling you what, Alex reads them all the time, and a lot of the changes that Investment Dominator's had, you know, in the last, I don't know, couple years, have come from people making suggestions. All right, so let's move on here. See if I can get some of these questions that are coming in here today. I have to make sure I got all of my questions from last Monday. There's one that I can answer here fairly quickly, coming from Anita. Is there an ID template? Yeah, I think we've had this question a couple of times, but it's a very good question to use when preparing an AgentPro247 .csv for importing. Unfortunately, that is a no, Anita. I think I know what you're talking about here. You know, AgentPro247 is a service, you know, for those of you that may be brand new, that I'm sure you've heard about them, but AgentPro247 is a service that you could go and get county records based on, you know, certain criteria you give them. And so I believe what Anita is asking here is if you come up here up under help and you search our user guide and you want to, let's say, import, gotta spell it right, you want to import records, is there some kind of template that you could, see, this is our format for importing records into Investment Dominator. So is there a template that would help her prepare an AgentPro CSV file, which is an Excel file that you get maybe from AgentPro247, and she would like a template that can help her put it in the order or the format that Investment Dominator can take. So all of these fields here would be your Excel, your .csv columns, and this is what Investment Dominator is looking for. First name, it's got to be capital FIRST space capital NAME, etc. And so all of these that you see in color are your required fields. So Anita would like a template that would take her .csv from AgentPro247 and help her figure out, okay, which fields need to be put into the format that Investment Dominator can handle. And I'm sorry, Anita, we don't have that at this particular time. Wow, the closest that we do have is I think a teaching I did, which actually, the teaching I did once that I had up on the screen, I had certain fields that, Agent Pro gives you, and then, I equated them to the fields that we have in Investment Dominator. One thing for those of you that are just starting to get your list, the one thing you have to know, AgentPro247, it doesn't have a type field in it. At least the data that I've seen come back from Agent Pro, you don't have the type field. Okay, so the data that comes back, you always have to specify for Agent Pro, at least coming into Investment Dominator, you'll have to create an actual column. And I'm hoping maybe I can just show you real quick here what I'm talking about. Let's see. Okay. Let's see, import list. Okay. Let's see this one. Okay. So an example, you may get a file back, CSV file back from Agent Pro. I'm not saying this is what it's going to look like because it won't. These are the fields that Investment Dominator is looking for. Agent Pro, last name maybe is going to be called something else, first name be called something else, but Agent Pro does not give you this type field. So you can't determine the records coming in, whether they're individual or company. So that's what I'm talking about. And it would be, nice to somehow have a template where you could say, okay, we have this Agent Pro format, and we're going to use this template now to equate all the fields that our Investment Dominator is looking for, and just make the transition real easy. Unfortunately, I don't think we have anything like that, and we just have to do it manually, each field by field. But as long as you have at your access, this is the import, this is what it should be. It's pretty easy to map the data, Agent Pro's data to the Investment Dominator's data, and create your file that you need. And you have a copy of this file format. Let's see, make sure I get the right one here under land. And if you just go into import, you have a sample list here. All right. And when you open that sample list, it's got all the fields that Investment Dominator is looking for. This is our sample list here. So, sorry, that's about the best we can do with that. Let's see, I won't save that. Okay. And John is making a good point here that, you know, we do have the VAs that we use to actually bring our data, you know, that we send them a county list and they put it in the correct Investment Dominator ready format. The VA is pretty good about doing that, even though they have an example from the Agent Pro. That is correct. We have a good VA that has, you know, done this work for so many years. You know, she knows how to just take the format from Agent Pro or the format from Rebo Gateway, either one, and she will put it into your Investment Dominator ready format, just like we stated there. And the beautiful thing is that you'll have thousands of records from a particular county, and she will put them into the right format, and it's only like $50 or $60 for us to have her do that. And I'm telling you, that saves me so much time, because then I've got thousands of records, so I can do my mailings, and you know, life is good. So give that a try. So we have one of our first business questions, which actually came from Kay a while of I think not this past Monday, but I think it was the Thursday before. Okay, with regards to a lease purchase agreement, okay, that's if you go up here under notes, there are two kinds of notes now that we have in place. You can select the note type. You can have a loan, or you can have a lease purchase agreement. And so I think I shared that day that we use lease purchase agreements. And let me write the question down here. For a lease purchase agreement, her question is, why would a buyer sign a lease purchase agreement versus a sale or a loan? So why would a buyer choose lease purchase over a loan, a loan type contract that they would get over a period of time? Okay. Why would a buyer sign? Now, I don't know all buyers. I just know the ones that have worked with us. And it's interesting, every single seller financing deal that we have is done with the lease purchase. We haven't done any loans at this particular point. And I'm gonna tell you honestly why I haven't done any loans. You know, having to worry about or keep track of an amortization schedule. I mean, if I had hair on my head, those of you know me know I don't have any hair on my head, but if I had hair on my head, it would make my hair hurt. I just don't want to deal with the amortized schedule and someone coming up, you know, saying they're sending in a principal payment and having to recalculate that. And see, at the time when we were getting into the business, we didn't have any capability like we do now to actually have Investment Dominator calculate that for us or keep track of an amortized schedule. And that's why I could just, you know, I sing Alex's praises, because this is going to make all of our life so much easier. So why would a buyer choose a lease purchase agreement over a note? The fast and simple answer is we didn't give them any choice. We told them, you know, that's what we do. If you want to buy this property on, you know, on terms, and you have to make payments, this is what we do. This is what we give you, the lease purchase. So, but then they would choose it, or I think over a loan, number one, because to most buyers, this is exactly the same kind of deal. They're buying this property on time, and they're fine with that. We're saying, okay, you're going to put a deposit down. We don't call it a down payment, but you're going to put a deposit down. We know most leases, traditional leases, are first and last payments. We don't even deal with that with land. We just say this deposit is X amount of dollars. Then, secondly, a buyer might choose this because in the eyes of the buyer now, remember with a lease purchase, you do not charge interest. You cannot charge interest. And for some reason, that really pleases buyers. Buyers like that. At least the ones that we've come in contact with with vacant land, they like the fact that we tell them, well, we're not going to charge you any interest on this this lease. We're just giving you rental credits, right? So now, in the background, we do have our own fees, and it is equating to an interest amount, but we don't call it interest. We can't call it interest because it's a lease purchase. So I'm just saying buyers like the fact that they don't feel like they're paying any interest, right? They don't mind paying fees, but they don't want to pay interest. Thirdly, most buyers are used to a lease situation because, you know, there's so many rent to own places around where you rent, you know, you can rent cars, you can rent, or you can lease cars, you can lease furniture, etc. A lot of buyers are used to the rent to own agreements. So they've purchased other items and they're kind of intrigued that they can purchase land the same way. That's another reason why a buyer would choose this. And finally, tell you what our contract says. In our lease purchase agreement, item number 22, and I'll just copy it in here for you, states the agreement to sell and purchase, owner hereby agrees to sell the property to the tenant. So that's what they're seeing right there. They're going to get the property. And the tenant shall have the option to purchase the property from the owner on the following terms. And then this is where we list how much they paid a month, what their rental credit is, etc. We just have a list of those terms. So right here, number 22, we're both signing that there is an agreement to sell and purchase by the owner and between the buyer. And so they're fine with that and they actually like it. And like I said, we've done many deals with the lease purchase. So we have a question around lease purchase. Do you use the standard lease purchase agreement that comes with LPG 2.0? Well, Paul, that's a good question because I would have to go back and look at, I know the agreement that we're using, we got from the LPG system at the time. So I will answer that question, yes. Now, I don't think it's been updated. It might have been updated. If it is, we haven't seen any updates. But basically, it's the same agreement. We got it like 3 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago. And we've been using that same lease agreement. We have a copy of it on our system, on our computer, and we just modify it, you know, based on the customer and the amount of the parcel. So I would say, yes, we do use the standard lease agreement that comes out of LPG2. Just want you guys to understand a little back, standard lease agreement from LPG2. We were people that had not made any money in real estate when we got into this program. And so we did not change anything. We didn't alter the neutral letter. We did not alter the offer letter. I have folks today that, they come in and they're brand new, haven't done any deals, and they want to create custom documents, So go up under here and I show them how to create a custom document, and they want to go up here and they want to start creating, new versions of the neutral letter, custom neutral letters. They want to change the offer letter, they want to create their own, they want to tweak it. They want to put words in, they want to take sentences out, hey, I'm I'm not judging anybody. It's totally up to you. I take my hat off to you if you know something about it. But I personally, one of the things Jack taught is don't mess with these letters. They've been tested over years and years of tweaking. They've been tested. Don't mess with them. And I followed that to a T because I was a scared, individual. I was apprehensive. I was fearful that, hey, I'm probably not going to be able, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. So when the man said, don't make any changes until you get some experience, that's the caveat. Until you get some experience, I didn't make any changes. So, and I was a grown person. I thought I had my own insights. I can, somewhat of a command of the English language, and I thought I could rewrite this, make it different. But I don't change anything. And we have been successful copying or doing this system the way, Jack has taught us, and or at least my coach taught us, which was Jonathan Havlis. And, that's, that's just me. I was too nervous to be making a lot of changes. Give you an example. And I don't want to get off track here, but in the neutral letter, the based on statistics, when you print out a neutral letter, let's generate one here. These based on Jack's work that he's done, he said a woman's signature seems to get more more responses than a male signature. Well, guess what? From day one, now this is just for a demo. I have my name on here, but we have Michelle's name on every single document that goes out of our company. Yes, I am, the president of our company. However, her name gets more, they told me her name would get more attention. That's what we did. We put her name on it. And there's some folks that fight that. They say, okay, well, I want to, I want my name on it. I'm the man. I want my name on it. Okay, well, you go ahead. But if I had a wife, or even a girlfriend that was in the business with me, and I could use her name, I would use her name because, to my knowledge, and I've never tried it with my name, but we were told that the woman's name gets more press. So, you have to make your own decisions. But any case, that's an example. I follow what I was told, and I trust Jack. I trusted my coach, and when he told me that, hey, that's the way we did it. Okay, enough on that. I'm off my soapbox on that. That's the question on. I don't know. I didn't have the date down here, Ed. So, but oh no, I think this was just our last this past Monday. Ed asked a question about getting notified when someone adds their email to the selling site. Is there a way that we can get notified every time someone adds their name to our selling site? Anyway, we can always get notified. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, I understand what he's talking about here. If we go up under our websites and you look at the opt-in page, when they enter their first name, their email address, this is your selling site. This is the opt-in page for your selling site. So he's talking about right here, when they enter their name and their email address, what is going to happen is there's going to be a record put into your marketing here. All right. That's going to capture this information. So he's saying, even though they put this information in here, is there a way to get notified? Because if you remember last week, what I shared with you And let's see, best way to share that with you again. Let's go to selling site. Okay, let's look at one of these, view details. Remember, I shared with you either Monday or last Thursday that the only way you get notified is if the customer says, I'm interested in this property. That's the only way, because if they say I'm interested, then now they have to come up here, they put in their information, they put some comments on, and then they say, send the purchase instructions. This correspondence now is going to go back to whatever company address you have, company email address you have in the system. That's where that is going to show up. So he's saying he wants to get notified every time someone puts in enter your first name and your email address. The system won't do that unless they say, I'm interested in a property. So unfortunately, Ed, no, the system won't do that. There's no way to get notified. When they just simply type in, okay, when someone enters their email, their name and email address. Okay, let's see. Oh, got a few minutes here left. See if I can get a question here that's real quick. Yep, I definitely agree with so many of your comments. Okay. You guys are asking some good questions. I always appreciate your questions. Let's see. I'm gonna make sure I got all of my questions from last Monday. Again, wow, we had a ton of questions today. They're gonna come in. If I didn't get to them today, okay, this one real quick, I think was one of the first ones that came in today. Tom Dickey was asking, how do you change the closing date in offers page? And we did go over that, I think, on this past Monday, but to make sure, okay, if you want to change the closing date, let's see, I have enough time, I think. Under customize, this is how you would change it for all of your letters. You go under the document template settings, and this is the date that can be changed. Okay, close of escrow. Okay, you're going to say 180 days, so that's 6 months. So this is going to, every offer that you have go out, it's going to automatically calculate the date to be 6 months from this date. Now, once you've calculated that date, you can override that date. You can override it in your land deals records. You go under offer requests, okay, any of these offer requests. Let's go in here and pick one. And if it creates a date, let's see, and it will create a date. Okay, here it is right here. Offer expires on this escrow date. So you can come in here, and you can actually put a date. So it's going to calculate 6 months. But if it sees that there's already a date in here, you can come in here and put a date. If it sees that there's no date, it will put the defaulted 6-month date. But if you want to say, well, I want to do this in 3 months, you can come in here and calculate 3 months, down the road, and say, let's say, 6/19. And when you save this record, as long as that date is in there now, as long as the date is in there, the system won't give you the defaulted calculated date. But if it sees there's no date in here, it's going to automatically calculate 6 months. All right. So that's the way you override it, is through, it's in the admin, it's in the property research section. All right. Okay, folks, we're out of time here. That's the last question I can get for today. Just want to leave this thought with you. I'm really always proud of you folks out there being courageous enough to do this business. Courage and strength. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. Struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. So I want you all to continue to move forward. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you that are going to be at the workshop this Monday coming up. And we're going to sign off for now. Go out there and make it happen and stay safe, please. And hope you all stay in good health. Look forward to talking with you next week where we'll be getting your questions answered. And even though I will be at the workshop, I will be running the Monday webinar as usual coming up, okay, at 5 p.m. on Monday. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.